Welcome to Conversations for 2025. And today it's all about November's energy. And we are using this book by Eve Smith, I Ching Predictions for 2025. And with great pleasure, I would like Donald Chowdhury to introduce himself. He's joining me today.
My name's Donald Cowdrey. I'm from Ontario in Canada, and I'm in a business group with Alice. We have some fun. She's into gardening, and I use human design in my business. And I've been really enjoying this book. I've been into it for the past couple months, but it's been very true and helpful.
Tell us a little bit about human design and how it might relate to the I Ching.
That's how me and Alice joined up. I found out about her daughter Eve's book. I use the human design system, which is an astrological system that gives you a blueprint of who you came to be. And all of the planets that you're born under are in hexagrams or I Ching hexagrams. There's 64 of them, and they each have a different meaning. So we all come with a different purpose, and we all have a different set of decision-making strategies. It also gives you the things, your pain points in life, so you can understand them better and grow from that place. It's a lot of like self-analysis.
If you have interest in Donald's information about human design, reference down in the comments and you can access his website. Today, we're talking about the energy shift into the month of November. For some people, they're still in the second energy of October, which was restraint. In the book, Eve talks about the energies between restraint and the one that we're moving into, which is contentious, can be in some ways similar. Donald, do you have any thoughts on that?
The funny thing is, October was all about procrastination. And I could really feel that in October. I was like, why can't I just get things done? But there was distractions and procrastination going on, things taking me away from task. It was difficult to focus. And it still is difficult to focus, but I'm still chewing on the bite-sized tasks to get everything done.
That's a great lead into November because with contentious, one of the messages that comes out is this is the collective energy that is talked about in this book as opposed to a personal prediction. This is the energy in the world around us or in our environment. Here in Canada, we're in the United States, and things are going on around us that are related to the flow of a yang energy, which represents the male aspect of life, and there's yin, which represents the female aspect. So this yang energy is the contentious. I wanted to read the definition because it sets the stage. I looked it up in one of the dictionaries, and it's causing or likely to cause an argument or be controversial, a disagreement or strife. And it often involves strong emotions and passionate debates, issues that are uncomfortable or sensitive within society. When I read that, I thought, oh my, given what's going on here in the US, we're all part of North America, but this is the US section with the whole debate over not passing the budget. We're coming up against a November 15 deadline, and the arguments and the passionate feelings people have on all sides around the issues of this. I think the message in this first part is that you need to break things down into baby steps. The big projects, the things you're up to, consist of small, discrete steps. And that is the way forward to manage the swirls of these energies around us. It's time to stay focused and purposeful and aligned with your core values and your strengths, and to be working on what you're doing from your strengths, what you know. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Here in Canada, I think I saw the other day on the news that we tried to negotiate with the United States about tariffs again. And then we had an increase in tariffs. But it's funny though, like everybody's getting upset about the tariffs. But what I feel is it's like a call for Canada to become more self-sufficient, right? So you can look at it as a bad thing, or you can look at it as a good thing. So I always try to take a little bit of humility and say, what is this actually teaching us about ourselves?
That's great because I think one of the pieces of information in this November chapter was to stay grounded. What you're talking about is staying grounded and balanced and look at what is this message and how am I going to respond to that? How am I learning from that? Or how is that going to impact me? And what can I do in my own sphere as I steadily move forward towards my goals? So that's a great example.
Yeah, like being grounded and humble, because in the book, Eve's also talking about connection and disconnection. The people in authority are doing stuff that you may or may not agree with. There's this connection with what they're doing or a disconnect from what they're doing, but it's to stay outside of that noise so that you can remain grounded and humble and say, what are the benefits in what they're doing and what are the bad things coming out of it and how can we move forward with this information rather than getting all wrapped up in what's going on.
Being grounded and focused and seeing how you can maneuver within this energy because the energy is all around us. I know from your work, you're talking about astrological impact. Could you talk a little bit about the energy from your human design perspective?
Sure. Right now, there's an awareness. We're actually in the gate 28. So the human design system moves through gates every 6 to 7 days. It moves through all 64 gates within the 365-day year. And right now we're in the gate 28. So this is a gate where it's about risk taking, and people may feel pressured at this time to take more risks in their life. Each day is a different theme of the risk taking. Day one, or theme line one, would be looking at the foundations of risk taking. It's not necessarily you're out there taking risks, but you're learning about what the risks are. And then the next day would be a theme two or a line two day where you're looking at natural risk taking. You're just a natural risk taker. And then a third line day is trial and error. So maybe you're taking some risks, but you're also learning lessons. So you can't worry about any stuff that happens. It's all for your personal growth. Then you got day four, which is all about talking to friends and family about the risks you've been taking and sharing that information with them. It's a spreading of the knowledge. And then there's 2 more days. And this is like how the whole cycle goes. It always goes days 1, day 2, day 3, 4, and 5, and 6. And on a day 5 day, you're talking to everybody. You're trying to universalize the idea of what happened when I took those risks.
Similar to what he was talking about,
Mhm.
and it's a way of maneuvering
Mhm.
through these energy currents. And what we've learned throughout this book
Mhm.
is that the energy cycles, and it's just the natural order of things. The premise is that change is inevitable, it's going to happen. And if you try to resist it, then you're going to have suffering
Yep.
because it's going to change anyway. The environment is going to change. The conversations are going to change and the impact. So, how can you be effective in your own life working through these types of change? But it's useful to know with the contentiousness that it will change. So when we're talking about November and we're headed into that and people, oh no, contentious, that's the
Mhm.
worst. We're going to be overwhelmed and the whole thing is going to break down, but the energy will shift. It always does. And a lot of people say, what causes this energy? Where does it come from? If you understand the energy of the earth and the universe, we're all surrounded by energy. We talk about the pull of the energy of the moon or the sun or eruptions on the sun, and it affects us and the earth. It affects our weather patterns, and it affects how we feel, and the barometric pressure changes. And sometimes we feel squirrely because it's changed. We don't understand why we're so weird all of a sudden. These are all of the forces around us that mostly we're ignorant of. We don't learn about this so that we can maneuver more effectively during these times. That's what we're talking about here. We're going to be in a time of great disruption, anxieties, etc. And what is it that you're going to do to maneuver yourself? I like to say with a little grace. One of the big cautions is to keep things small. As you said, with the risk-taking energy that may be showing up, we're thinking, oh, I should do this because the government's being crazy and it's going to be blah, blah, blah. I need to go plunge into this project or whatever. The message is no, that you need to, as you said, think about things. You need to see how whatever you're thinking about is in balance with your values and your goals, and then to chunk it down. Back in the day, we used to say, chunk it down into small pieces,
Yeah.
take bite-sized
Bite
pieces,
size.
keep it small, and have it be a consistency in how you're organizing yourself, what you're doing. So if you have a whole line of small projects that are lined up, they're small pieces to a project that you're working on. If you can take the time to think through the individual project pieces that go into it, and as you said, Donald, in terms of the human design, each part of each step along the way, you stop, you evaluate, you look at the impact, and then you go forward to the next step. It's almost like being in a hurricane or in a tornado of energy and upset and arguments and accusations and all kinds of things going on. You can still stay focused and have a good outcome.
Yeah, I like that. I like the analogy of we're in this constant environment of change. And if you think about, I've heard this before, the only constant is change in life. Something Eve mentions in her book is seeking counsel from others. If something's not working out or something seems difficult, maybe you haven't turned it into small enough steps to continue. Maybe ask other people who have already done whatever you're trying to do and see how they would approach your situation.
That's great suggestion because that gives you a different perspective and it gives you some lateral thinking space. Is there anything else about the contentious energy you saw when you were engaged in reading the chapter?
I love all the difficult energies. I never used to, but I do now. When things are difficult, it's usually a sign that you should be slowing down. If you keep pushing ahead, things are going to break down and eventually you won't be able to move forward. You're supposed to be flowing with the energy. And it's funny because I always think about salmon who are swimming upstream, but we're not meant to swim upstream. We're meant to flow with the river. That's what human design's all about too, is removing the resistance in your life. We didn't come here to struggle and then eventually pass away after a long struggle. Some people maybe are in for that, but not everybody's meant to continually struggle for every single thing.
Was there anything else about the contentious energy?
One of the things is like all of those small successes are going to lead up to a larger success that you're probably not even going to see coming. So if you stay focused on those small details, that's your likely outcome for the month of November. But if you bite off too much, then you're going to end up feeling like a failure or that you didn't get ahead or didn't do anything. So if you find that you're doing that in the month, maybe that's just a sign you need to slow down or chunk it a little bit smaller.
I think the message also was to avoid overwhelm because in this type of energy, it's easy to get overwhelmed. And also in the energy that we'll move into in the second phase, you don't know though when the energy is going to shift. So it's not like on the 1st of November, boom, it's contentious. It could start earlier or an individual, or it could start later. Each individual perceives it from their own vantage point. So for me, it felt like it started earlier. How about
Okay.
for you?
I'm already feeling the contentious energies going on. It's like before a wave forms, the wave already knows it's going to form. Everything kind of flows, it comes on gradually. This is why you need to practice awareness of what's going on. How do you feel? Daily check ins are super important so you don't end up by snapping and getting involved where you shouldn't be.
Speak a little more about a daily check in.
It's good to check in daily or just be aware of how you feel each day. Some days are going to be more productive than others, and that's okay. When I'm focused on a goal that I have that's bigger than myself, I don't make any progress towards that goal. But when I focus on the smaller things, I'm able to accomplish those bigger goals without even realizing that I'm doing it.
When you got the small steps and you're working towards it, you make a lot of progress, but you get overwhelmed if you think you're not reaching the end point already.
Yeah.
Was there anything else?
I guess it's not to get confused with this energy being limiting because it's not limiting. All you're doing is changing your approach in November.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah. So instead of the energy stopping you from doing things, what it's telling you is to don't stop what you're doing, just do smaller things and you'll eventually reach your end goal. It's just a change in your approach. If the water gets rough when you're swimming, maybe you gotta float a little bit more than struggle against the water because you're gonna get tired if you struggle. So it's not limiting, it's just gonna feel limiting, but being consistent and showing up with how you feel each day, journal, meditate. I personally meditate almost every day. It really helps me keep perspective on life.
Part of what you were talking about when you said check in daily, you're writing something in your journal and reflecting on that. Is that one of the practices?
Yeah, let's say you're feeling resistance when you're trying to get something done. It's a great time to stop what you're doing and figure out where's the resistance coming from. Sometimes understanding what's going on allows you to move forward. Maybe you have a dog at home. If I'm working and then I start to run into some resistance, I go and take him for a walk. It just change of environment, and then I can come back to what I was doing.
That's a way of interrupting
Mhm.
whatever the thinking, the avenue that you're going down or the track that you're going down by taking the dog out,
Uh-huh.
right? It's like you've stopped something, you've started something else, and then you can come back with a different perspective or understanding. Did I get that right?
Yeah. I've had to balance my whole life. My mind moves faster than I can move. So a lot of the stuff I have to let go of. Learning to slow down has been really important for me.
That's true for me too. I've been called a pouncer
Oh, yeah.
because if I see opportunity, I pounce. Historically, I would pounce. I think that I spent a lot of energy sometimes for a little outcome. Had I, as you said, slowed down and really thought through and done a flow of all the different parts and see how does this match up with what the goals are or what I think we should be doing, maybe I would have taken a different approach, or at least I didn't have to have this huge burst of energy around it. When you're young, you've got energy to burn, but as you get older into your golden years, as they say, you reflect a little bit more on how you're going to be spending your energy.
Exactly. Even my mother has to slow down. She has COPD and she used to be very go, 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 but now she has to pick and choose what she can do in a day. And I said, it's okay. Just go with it.
This energy shift is coming in November. We're going to shift from contentious. It'll be a big relief because I think everybody thinks we're stuck in this forever, but change is inevitable. We're going to change into the energy of creation. That is represented by the powerful archetypical symbol that comes from Asia, which is the dragon. We're always talking about the dragon on the front of the book to represent creativity and the connection between heaven and earth. And it's very positive. Sometimes people think of dragons as fire and man eating and destructive force. It
Mm.
can be a very creative kind of force. It's very auspicious energy. What would you think about that?
Definitely, I like to think of like dragons as being a destructive force because sometimes you have to tear down old structures so you have room to build new ones or let go of old ways of doing things. Like the destruction has to come with the creation. It's almost like a part of it. And then in the later months of every year, we get into this more, and nobody likes to talk about this, but like death and dying sort of energy. The death and dying needs to happen. Trees lose their leaves in autumn, and then all the decay from that goes to feeding new trees in the next spring, right? It's this constant renewal process. So it's just a good way of looking at the creative force. Like sometimes you need to get rid of things in your life to make room for new things. That all ties back to being comfortable with change.
While you were talking, it just struck me that part of the contentious energy is that there'll be at some point a resolution. So whatever's going to happen, there may be a big change, there may be big shift in different things. The budget will eventually get resolved. Things will arise and it'll be very creative. And it sounds like an exciting time.
Yeah. And there's really two ways to move forward. You can cry over the spilt milk of the old being gone, or you can see what's sprouting up from that milk being gone now. You can see what new opportunities are there. What's an individual perspective?
And that's what's so important with this message is that these are the energy forces of the collective we're talking about that are around us. But personally, you talk about the collective, but it's all about me, right? At the end of the
Mhm.
day, how am I going to manage in all of this? But it's really quite, as you said, an opportunity to look around and say, hey, this is not death and destruction. This is a new beginning. I have projects now and I'm excited about them and I can bring them forward. And I've got the energy to move things along.
Yeah.
And we may be seeing this around us in our governmental officials, in our local cities and municipalities, or in the groups that we belong to, that projects may come out of all of this and get implemented. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. Like even when you're talking about a new budget, it means even if the budget is less, then maybe some of the older programs that weren't really working will get cut. And that's okay because new stuff will spring up. And I always believe the government needs to back off a little bit and let the people have their own agency. So I'm waiting. I know that energy is coming to humanity in the next few years. We're all going to feel like we have more control over what's going on. And there's going to be, I'm just predicting this, less government involvement in what we're doing.
As we live our lives and as the energy keeps shifting, it's going to be so interesting to see how things develop. So, the takeaways for the month, the first one was focus on small, deliberate steps towards your goals. Do you feel that we've thoroughly discussed that?
Oh,
The next one was connection and disconnection.
I really talked a little bit about disconnection, but I've never really talked about connection. It's also helpful to look at why do you feel connected to certain things, people in authority and what they're doing. So look at your connections and also look where you're disconnected. So good to get a whole holistic view of what's going on.
That's great point. The next one was stay grounded and humble. I know we talked about grounded. Could you say something about humble? What in this
Yeah.
context are we meaning when we say stay humble?
Humble comes definitely from a place without pride. And anything you're proud of, you really got to take a second look at if you want to stay humble. And that could be anything like, oh, I'm proud that I did 10,000 steps today if you're tracking your steps. Like it's an accomplishment. And I'm not saying don't pat yourself on the back, but let that just be a benchmark for the next day. And that's how you stay humble. Pride can get in the way. It can also push you into doing things that you maybe wouldn't do normally. I have to prove myself in this area, or I have to do that. And then something goes astray or wrong because November is going to be contentious. If you're living in the prideful, I got to prove myself, I got to get this done, this project needs to be done by Friday. It's funny how people put all the limitations on themselves. If you're doing your own business, then you're putting all the rules in place. If your business is difficult, it's because you made it difficult. I got to produce 10 videos a week. You kind of set that rule. I just see it so much in my life. People put limitations on themselves and then they have to abide by them. It's almost watching a little bit of insanity go on. Because if you get there and you're burnt out and you're spent and you're done, then you're no good to anyone.
But like you said, we create our own reality.
Yeah.
We set the rules and then suddenly we forget that we made that up. And if
Mhm.
we did it, we can change it. The number 4 takeaway
Mhm.
is to seek counsel when needed and maintain a disciplined approach. In some of the earlier chapters, there was mention about looking around you, your associates, who has your best interest at heart. James Hollis, a very well known psychologist, Jungian psychologist, said, does it increase you or does it diminish you? And if you don't feel uplifted, you don't feel encouraged, but you feel somehow diminished, that you're not as good as, then that's a way to evaluate seeking counsel. Why are you keeping those people around you? Go talk with people who will give you good advice. And those are the counsel that you want to gather around you. Have you found that to be true for you?
I tend to not recognize when I need help, so I don't go looking. I'm getting into self-sufficiency mode. I like asking people for their opinions because it gives me different views and perspectives. I don't put too much stake in if somebody doesn't like me or likes me. It all goes back to staying humble. You can't base yourself on what other people think of you.
The next takeaway, the last one, is extraordinary success awaits with patience and self discipline. This is a time to engage only in what you know you are competent in. By maintaining a sense of self discipline, you avoid overwhelming yourself and stay focused on the tasks at hand.
That's definitely something I'm working on, staying self-disciplined.
That leads into how will we know when the energy shifts? So the energy will shift when you notice that your community, business, or other group is sought for an advisory role or become aware that they need an advisor.
I've been waiting to get recognized in my own business. We'll see if I can stick to my tasks in November, just small tasks. Maybe I'll get noticed in December, and then I'll know the energy has shifted.
What else would you like to add about the predictions for 2025 in terms of using the chapters?
I would say it's very helpful looking at what's potentially coming up and giving you just a bit of a heads up. So for October, I haven't been really hard on myself. I don't feel like I'm getting a lot done, but if I actually look back, I got quite a bit done because I'm basically shifting the entire scope of my business to something new. But I don't feel like I'm doing anything because I'm shifting, because it's kind of like you're making a turn. So you haven't gone any further down the road. And it was funny because the predictions from earlier said that you might be redoing a pathway that you took. And that was at the beginning of the book. So I thought that was funny that I took a pathway and now I'm kind of shifting it into a new pathway. It's because I didn't listen to myself, to be honest. I was like marketing and getting people attention. I never took that as a career, but now that I have the human design system, I can really help people get the right attention, people that are aligned with them.
People have been asking me, will there be a new I Ching predictions book? And the answer is yes.
Mhm.
And it will be available towards the middle of November, which is interesting when you think of the shift of the energy in November. It's going into the creative, right? And the dragon and all of that. And that you would pick that time to have the new book available for people through Amazon, and we'll list it in the description below.
The next book is definitely on my Christmas wish list. So we'll see.
Oh,
I like talking about the energies and reflecting on what happened and giving my own perspective too, which is one of the reasons why I started my YouTube channel because there's so many bad takes in the world. And I'm like, no, like, guys, bad things happen, but it's about learning from them.
we could list that
Mhm.
in the references below if people are interested, and we'll put those links if people want to check them out. In addition to the predictions book, all the resources that are available. And with the holidays coming, maybe there's something that might interest someone to give as a gift. I'm looking forward to hear how November went and what's in store for us for December. In the interim, stay small, stay focused, and look forward to the burst of creativity when the dragon energy comes in. Contentiousness leaves, dragon comes in.
We're
So
learning how to ride the dragon.
thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.